This is a great communication tool. Absolutely fantastic tool for projecting success with your client. And it's got a number of parts to it. It's called the magic formula. And it works like this. You spend 90% of the time talking about an incident, something that happened. Only 5% of the time recommending an action, and then only 5% of the time backing up that recommendation for action with the benefit that will flow as a consequence of that action. So what we're looking for here is you are trying to provide evidence to your client that what you're recommending is good for them. You've done a great job listening to them. You've understood, or you're trying to build trust and rapport in the early stage of the conversation. It's where you're trying to get them to open up because they feel, okay, well, I've done this before with others. You've had success. Okay, maybe we can be successful too. Remember, we've gone through that process of the setting it up to ask questions. This is another way of setting up how to portray your evidence where you've had work with other clients that tells you that possibly you could do the same for this company. This is a formula of how to package that. Right? So you talk about the client. You talk about, now you may or may not be able to mention the name of the client, depends. Depends on if there are any non-disclosure agreements or any undertakings that you would not talk about that client company to others. Depends. Or you might be able to use the name, it depends. But what you're talking about there is the actual content of the business. So there was a problem. There was some issue for that company and you found a solution. So in this incident phase here, you're going to talk about what was the issue for the client and then the solution you came up with. The action is going to be you're going to recommend that this company do the same thing. And then you're going to talk about the benefit that they'll get of taking that action. Right? And that benefit action is at the very last part, but they're very brief. Now this whole construct might be 1 minute. We're not talking half an hour discussion here. This might just be a 1 minute summation of some evidence you worked on for another company where you had a good result for them. And this is how you package it up. Right? So we're going to plan this here a little bit. I think on the next page here, on page 3.5, you see there we've got the incident, action, benefit as a structure. So think back to a client you've had, where you've been successful with them, and when you're describing the incident part here, try to include a little bit of emotion somewhere. And by that I mean just saying, well, they had a problem of not getting enough new clients. That's a statement, that's fine. But try and add something, a little bit more of the feeling of how that client was tracking, how they were traveling. So you might say something like, yes, our client was under a lot of stress and pressure because their boss was really pushing them on the numbers and they were not getting enough new clients. And this was their dilemma. They needed new clients and my client was worried actually about their job. See, now I've talked about the issue, which is not enough new clients. I've brought some of the emotion of how that client was feeling, the pressure they were under from their superiors on the numbers, and they were worried about retaining their job. They were worried about keeping themselves employed. So in that incident, you've got the raw content, but also some feeling. It could be the other way. The client was really excited about the possibility. Here's a new market they hadn't explored before. Here's an opportunity to access that new market. So they were very, very passionate about the chance. They were very committed to doing it. They're very energetic to do it. They're very excited to do it. Could be emotion, could be positive, or could be negative. But add something about either one of those in there, and then talk about what they should do, and if they do that, what will happen. When you get around to telling this story about this client, try and paint a picture of the time, the season, maybe location. It was spring last year, and I was in the client's office in Matanuchi, in the boardroom. My client was sitting there telling me that their company was not meeting the numbers because they weren't getting enough new leads and new business. My client was worried. I could see there was a lot of pressure on the client from their superiors. In fact, the client said they were worried that they were not going to make the numbers, and that might have some impact on their own ability to maintain that employment situation. So get a season, get a location, get some emotion in there, in the telling of the story, not just dry facts. Make it real, make it something that the listener can relate to and feel something of the tension or something of the excitement of that particular situation. Okay. Don't make it a dry, boring story. Get some life into that story. The incident is storytelling. And we are attracted to storytelling, and we're attracted to interesting stories, relevant stories. So this should be an interesting and relevant story for the client. Tell that story briefly. Have some emotion in there, either excitement or fear, right, to make it real and more memorable and more relevant. Action benefits should be tight. We recommend you should do this, and if you do this, you'll get this. So then the last things they hear, having listened to all this detail, is do this, you'll get this, which is very easy for them to understand. But this incident part is the bulk of it, and people, places, seasons, the things the when, where, why, all that sort of stuff, you put that in there. That's the essence of storytelling. So anytime you need to convince a client that you have track record, or there's a reference point with another buyer, this is how you can use it. Very, very effective. Very, very effective. But it's got to be tight. You just can't warble on and blab on for 5 minutes telling us an incredibly convoluted story people can't remember. It's got to be tight, to the point, but it's got to be rich in detail. Right? Okay. Any questions on that so far?
It's kind of a field